Welcome to My Long Island TV. From Manhasset to Montauk, we have traveled our communities to bring you the following events. I'm your host, Waldo Cabrera. My Long Island TV starts now.
This is the Long Island Museum of American Art, History, and Carriages. It was founded in 1939 by Ward Melville, who was a resident in Stony Brook, and he set up the Stony Brook Village. And he had a collection of art and carriages, and his carriage keeper had a special interest in the carriages and donated them to what is now the museum. Originally, it was located in a very small building up the street. The collection was quite small. It's now grown to over 40,000 objects of Americana, historical artifacts, horse-drawn carriages, and art. What we're standing in here is an exhibit called The Story of Harness Racing by Currier and Ives. It's a collection of lithographs from the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame in Goshen, New York, during the time when harness racing was very prevalent in this country, which is mid-19th century. Photography had not yet been perfected and developed. It was a very long, difficult process. So what Currier and Ives did was create prints and sort of tell the story of a very important part of American history through their drawings. A couple pieces that we've added are two pieces from our own collection, and one is a painting and one is a lithograph by Currier and Ives. And it's of a horse named Lady Suffolk. Lady Suffolk was a horse that was raised in Smithtown as a farmer's horse, and eventually she became a racehorse, and she was the first horse in the country to break the record for the 1-mile race at under 2.5 minutes. Horse racing, a jockey actually rides on a horse, and in harness racing, the horse is harnessed to a cart, and the driver actually rides in the cart, and then the horse pulls the cart. The museum has a collection of about 200 horse-drawn carriages and related artifacts, and this museum showcases just about 100 of the carriages, and it tells the history of transportation on Long Island and in the United States. This carriage is called the Grace Darling. It was originally from Concord, New Hampshire, and it was used as sort of like a city bus, used to transport passengers from the train station to the local hotel in Concord, Massachusetts. The museum recently renovated 2 galleries in the lower level of the museum. One is called the Gentleman's Coach House, and the other is the European Vehicles Gallery. The Gentleman's Coach House is replicate of what would have been a 19th century Gold Coast mansion carriage house where all the carriages were kept, and it includes the groom quarters and also the tack room. The carriage exposition is modeled after what would have been a car show, and it was a venue for carriage makers to bring out their newest and greatest carriages at the time, and so people would go and sort of pick out the vehicles that they wanted to be seen driving around in the next year. This was a carriage making factory that was originally located in Williamsburg, Massachusetts, and it was brought here to the museum and installed and completed about 4 years ago in 2006. And it's installed almost exactly as it was in its original location. And it's a set of tools and other equipment that was used to make carriages back in the 19th century. It operated on a system of belts and pulleys, and it was built next to a water mill, and the power from the water mill is what powered the belts and pulleys. We have a collection of all carriages made by the Studebaker Company, and the last one being a horseless carriage, and it was one of the very earliest automobiles. Studebaker was one of the few companies that was successful in making the transition from carriage building to automobile making. The car was electric powered, so it had a battery that was charged, and then there's a little gear shift that's used to turn it on. The earliest automobiles were much more environmentally friendly than the gas guzzlers that we use today.